Hey, it's Paula. I thought I'd just check back and show you the finished products from today's session, Focus on Focals. It was a great session where I went through a range of different beading projects that I've used significant focal beads in, and then I put out a whole selection, and the top two actually were what I worked on. So I've finished those projects this afternoon. So I'm just going to go through and show you what they actually were and what I finished. So the first one was actually the fan shape. Sorry, I'll just pull my camera up here. Was the actual fan shape piece. So you can see here, I actually finished off the beaded tassel there. So I did a couple of rows there of the gem duo beads in this slipperit colour. And this particular tassel had little wires in it. So it sort of created this crown effect with that as well. I then, as I suspected, I did a little triangular section at the bottom of the fan shape there, and then just joined the tassel on the top there. So in terms of attachment, what I did at the back was I created two little loops just at the sides here, and then I just beaded my cord through there and then knotted that to finish it off. So it's just a straight over the head finish piece with that one. So that's the fan piece that's come up really, really nicely. Super happy with that, with the sort of hot pink cup chain, little touches of hot pink, and then the pale and matte black, pale pink and matte black colours in there as well. So that was the fan piece. The other one that I finished was the actual glass cluster. So you can see here, I actually bead embroidered the entire edge of that wire net here. So that just gave it a bit more structure and finish. And then on the back of it, I've actually made it into a brooch by attaching a brooch back. And I sort of just secured that center part where I had all of those stop beads by just creating a very organic piece of peyote. So everywhere I had a stop bead, I just beaded through to that and then just peyote stitched it. I also added in a couple of little clusters of beads in the wire there as well. But that one's turned out to be a beautiful organic looking brooch with the wire knit and the glass beads with all their little dangles, etc. on them. So I'm super happy with how that one has come together as well. So that was my two projects from today, Focus on Focals. I hope you enjoyed watching those, and look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now. Hi, it's Paula from On a String, and welcome to the May session from On a String. This one is about focals. We're going to focus on focal beads today, and I've got a few samples to show you, and we might do a little bit of a poll to see which piece I'm actually going to work on today, because I've got so many choices I couldn't actually decide myself. I want to thank Glenda for the suggestion about focal beads, and Glenda is one of the polymer clay artists that I know that I continue to buy bits and pieces from, and I love buying focal beads from other artists and utilising those in my work, so I wanted to go through and show you some of those examples today. Focal beads can come from lots of different sources, whether that be an actual physical bead or other alternative things like brooches or buttons as well. And it's how you actually use that focal to be the feature in your piece that I wanted to demonstrate today. So let's flip over the camera and have a look at how I've used different types of focals in my beadwork. Okay, so I've got lots of different samples to show you here today, and these different focals are all things that I've utilised in the past. So let's just go through and have a look at the different ones. This was a pair of earrings I made with these enamel flowers as the focal and centerpiece. So a really great way to actually showcase how to actually use a focal in your beadwork. And these ones here actually were something that I used in an earring design for the Bead Society competition last year. So there's an enamel flower focal in those ones. That's one. And hi Anita, hi Shelley, hi Glenda, hi Alex. Welcome everybody. This one here is a focal using buttons. So vintage buttons were part of a design on the fly that I did last year for Nez from the Bead Nerd. And this one here is an actual button that I cut the shank off the back of that and then matched that with other various focal beads. So again, this one is a brooch. It's got a magnetic clasp on the back of that, but this is a button as the feature on a piece. Another one I wanted to showcase was, this was a design piece I did a few years ago, but this uses a brooch. So this brooch actually came from an op shop or a secondhand shop that I saw in the street, and I thought, oh, I really wanted to match that with this ceramic focal. The ceramic focal is one that came from Natalie of Peruzzi Beads, and then I matched a beautiful tassel to go with that as well. So again, something that was secondhand with a ceramic piece with a tassel, and this was actually from a pair of earrings and I took them apart. So repurposing pieces to create a cohesive design. I wanted to showcase this one here. This was one of my bead challenge pieces from many, many years ago, and our challenge beads were things like these sort of rondelles and these glass beads. But I matched that with a piece of stone agate, I suppose you'd call it, and created a bead embroidered focal. Now this is one, I would not have worn this for a long time. This is probably about 10 or 15 years old now, but just looking at the technique around, you know, doing some bead embroidery, different little sequins in there, just to match that to that particular stone was the concept at the time. Another one that I wanted to show was using some flowers as the focal. So this was my mirror design. You can see there's a little mirror in there that I did a couple of years ago as a class. And this has got some lucite flowers as the feature, matched with bead embroidery, of course, and, you know, different complementary coloured beads. But this one here, mirror, really cute little design featuring flowers as the focal. Another one, this is one of my personal favourites. This one's got glass and then this beautiful hand-created enamel and tin piece that came from an artist called Tracy somebody in America. I'll have to think of what her surname was. But this is one that, oh, I love this piece. It's got this sort of spiral herringbone rope, the double toggle feature, and then some beautiful glass flowers that came from Glenda Mack from Dax Design. So I love this particular piece. As I said, one of my favourites. I really like to wear this, and I remember wearing it to work one day when someone said, oh my God, where did you get that from? I was like, oh, I made it myself. So really nice to have these memories of these different pieces. This one here features a diochroic glass face that came from Lynn Owen from Silver Moon Lynn, and this was my challenge piece for the Bead Society a couple of years ago. It's featuring, you know, cubic right angle weave, flowers, a toggle capture, but this idea of a beautiful doll that I created using the face as the feature. The challenge piece means that you need to include different beads in that, so I think it was this Rivoli, some of these little purple beads here, some of these little triangle ones. There was some Dalicas in there as well, and the pearls, and that was my 2023 entry. And then finally, another one that's another favourite of mine. This was a design I did about 4 or 5 years ago, featuring some raku clay pods and cabochons from MAC in the States. And again, it's got some gorgeous rivolis captured there, a triangle rope, a toggle capture. Really loved this particular piece, and this was one that was part of the challenge, I think, and we had particular beads that we had to utilise in that. I think it was these triangles and the button beads there as well. It's a few years ago now, I can't remember so much about that one. Oh, hi Sandra, nice to hear from you. Sandra's travelling the States at the moment, so thanks Sandra. Hi Anita, thank you so much for that. It's amazing how to, see these all come together. Okay, so let's have a little bit of a look at some of the focals that I pulled out today for us to have a look at. Now, focals come in all sorts of different shapes and features, and I do have a lot here, and I'm certainly not going to bead all of these, but I thought I'd sort of go through and we could do a little bit of a poll on which ones that, we could actually feature today. But I'll go through and show you my different thoughts with these focals. Okay, so let's pull out one set at a time. So the first one here I've got is some polymer clay with a really lovely resin coating on it. Now these are all ones that came from Leanne Fergus. Beautiful clear resin here, and it's got a real opalescent sort of view to it, this one. And there's a couple of other pink pieces there that were Leanne's from a few years ago. I've hoarded these, and I do love this sort of pastel sort of look, the pale pink and that resin coat that's on the top of it. So there's one suggestion, something to do with those. So that's polymer clay with resin is one. The next one I've got is a couple of these diochroic glass pieces. Again, these are both from Lynn Owen. So this one here features 24 karat gold in it. Absolutely beautiful piece. I did have 2 of these and I have utilised one of them. And there's another sort of fan-shaped one from Lynn as well. So love both of these glass pieces, and they're just gorgeous with their depth of colour in them. And particularly this sort of opalescent one I think is just beautiful. So there's another suggestion. Another little piece that I gathered out was glass. So glass can be an amazing focal as well. And these glass beads, I think these were from an artist in the States at one point. But look how beautiful they look when they're sort of stacked together. And particularly these two that have got, different sort of domes and flowers in them as well. I think these look beautiful, sort of all bunched together as a feature. And the red is just a stunning colour. I love with these little sort of silver dots and things in here. I could build in some different colours into that piece as well. And I can sort of see those 5 beads sort of sitting together like that. So that's my vision for those red glass pieces. So we've covered polymer clay, glass, 2 sorts of glass. Of course, there are crystals. Now, crystals are standard in a lot of our beadwork as a feature, and I just grabbed out a few different ones that I have here. So there's a 27mm here, round, 27mm oval, and of course this gorgeous square from Swarovski that I'm not sure we can get too many more of these, but these really lend themselves to peyote wrap around them and becoming a feature in their own right. So there's crystals as another option. These are really fun. So these come from, I got them from somebody on Handmade Alchemy, and it might have been, wasn't Deb Myers, it was another Deb I think, but I love these with the little saying on them. So this one here, you're not as bad as people say, you're actually much, much worse. This, you can soften this with beads if you wanted to, turn it into a brooch or a badge or something like that. Another one here, Yoo-hoo, has anyone seen my sanity? I wake up with good attitude, then idiots happen. These sort of vintage sayings are all on an aluminium sort of metal. It's hard being this beautiful. You're so lucky you don't have to worry about it. From scratch, oh yes, I scratched the label off the packet. That's probably something I tend to do myself personally. So again, these sort of little sayings are really great as a brooch or a badge, and you know, adding beads onto them just gives them that sort of unique feature as well. So these ones are beautiful pieces as well. What else have I got in here? I've got some more of these lovely little clay raku clay pieces. As I said, I've hoarded some of these over the years, and they come from Mac Casparian, and they're just beautiful pieces. These little pods, they've got that lovely glistening center in them, and some little you know, silver bits on the outside. Then there's this other sort of lovely diamond sort of shape with a matching cone and dot in it. So again, I think these three sit really well together. So they're what I really like to look at with them. As I said, I've been hoarding these. So I've had these for a few years. Okay, so next up, I've got some buttons. And what I've pulled out is different vintage buttons, and then I've got some other polymer clay buttons as well. But look at this beautiful one. I mean, this beetle shape, scarab beetle button, a vintage button. You can see how old that one was. What did I pay for that? $18. I have not used it. It's got a little red ruby in it as well, but I just think as a feature, that is just an absolutely gorgeous piece. I've then got a couple of different shaped buttons as well. So, you know, this lovely hexagon shape here with the gold feature. Again, it's got the shank, as has this red flower one. What did I pay for that one? $14. So beautiful buttons here. And then, of course, there's this sort of larger purple one with that silver backing on it. And then this button style that doesn't have a shank. So they're varying different sorts of check buttons as well. Okay, some more polymer clay. So one of my favourite, or two of my favourite bead artists, three I think I've got here. I've grabbed out some of the polymer clay pieces. So I recognise these ones here are all from Deb Myers. Look at this one, looks like my little dog. I think these ones are just beautiful as a standalone feature. I've used Deb's work a lot when I've done these sort of design on the fly sessions. I love the 3D elements that she creates in her polymer clay work. They're really sort of substantial pieces, but just the feel of these is really nice. Look at this beautiful one here with those raised flowers, that 3D effect. As I said, looks like my little dog. And there's another one with canes that have been sort of smoothed off as well. So they're all Deb's pieces. I've got this other beautiful black and white shield one here. This comes from Julie from Pepper Beads. This one again has got a bit of a raised black line through it, but varying different cuts of screen printed black and white on there as well. And then this one came from, I'm pretty sure this is a Jill Scott one. And again, this is an interesting shape to use. It's this sort of long cone shape. It's got a hole at the top here. So again, you'd be able to thread something through and then bead and fringe around the top of that and create that sort of as the central focal. So a different shape to use. It wouldn't be a bead embroidery piece, but certainly I could even possibly drill that hole a bit deeper if I needed it to do it as well. Okay, a couple of other sort of favourites over years gone by are focals that come from the Painted Lady. So these ones, this one here, the standard 2-inch one, is one that is used in my tape measure project. So a beautiful focal and creates a really nice pendant piece in its own right as well. There's also a little oval one from there, and again, challenging shape. I've had this one for a while and not used it, but a rectangle shape this way to create that as a pendant. I really have struggled to think about how to use that. So that's a bit of a challenge one for me, but they're Painted Lady focals. And then what else have I got? Okay, some polymer clay buttons. So polymer clay makes a beautiful button as well. And a couple of these ones came from Angie's mum Diane made these ones, and I used a different button of these in a piece last year. So a really nice way to actually use the button as the central focal, particularly with those holes in the middle, but really sparkly, you know, little bits of pieces in there, and they're very organic looking as well. So I really like both of those. And then these buttons actually came from Scotland. So I think my mum brought me these ones, but these again are a polymer clay button. Really large holes in them, but could be used as a focal. You could potentially put 3 together, something like that. And then 3 more types to show you. So here are some metallic pieces that could be used as focals as well. So these masks, these come from a company called Anna Bronze. And then there's this little Peter Rabbit sort of style as well. So similar to the design I showed earlier with the oriental mask face on it, this is the type of thing that you could use with that. You know, put some fabric behind it to make the eyes pop in there and use that as a face, and then build a body potentially from underneath there as well. And then this little rabbit one would be a lovely feature, particularly at Easter time too. So there's some metallic types. And then I've got some ceramic. So ceramic again is another sort of focal that you can utilise. And what I've grabbed here is some different ones. I think these came from the Bead Society Expo a few years ago. So I've got this sort of set, and I've had these again, hoarded these for a while. This would be a lovely set as a piece. You could potentially, you know, bead embroider, but also do some sort of right angle weave capture around those other focals there as well. And there's a couple of little tiny, these are Peruzzi, little tiny skull-like pieces, no holes, etc. in them, so they will need to be captured. Always a bit of a challenge not going too much over the edge of something like that, because you don't want to lose that feature, but that's another option. And then last but not least is some resin. So I've got some resin pieces here, and these come from Julie from Pepper Beads as well. She's actually made the molds for these to create some resin. So there we go. There is so much there, and that's just what I grabbed out of the drawers this morning. But any sort of votes, I know Penny's love the fan shape, so let's put the fan shape there as one option. The square shapes are really interesting. I agree. I think these are really fun, and potentially like this one, it's hard being this beautiful. You're so lucky you don't have to worry about it. So there's a square option as well. Any other options for people for me to have a bit of a think about? I've got a bit of a fascination with this glass, but I've already chosen that glass, so I won't do that one. Potentially the button might be something. Maybe let's look at a hexagon button shape as well. And then maybe let's think about a polymer clay piece also. And I think I might have a look at this particular polymer clay in the black and white. So there's some options for me to have a bit of a play around. The red glass stack, thanks Anita. Yep, I agree. I think I really like this concept too of that one. So let's just pop that on there as well. Okay, I'm going to leave these 5 options up here, and let's see which one gets the most votes, and that'll be the one that I'll play around with today. So have a bit of a think about those. I'm going to put away some of these other pieces so that I've got some work room here. And then whilst you're telling me which one you'd like, then I will think about how I'm going to utilise it. So I think we've got square, we've got polymer clay, we've got glass in 2 sorts, and we've got a hexagon button. So are there any winners there right now? Black and white polymer clay, the fan. Okay, there's 2 that have had multiple votes. Red glass. Gosh, I've got a lot of projects here to do, haven't I? All these different pieces. It's amazing when you actually pull things out of the little drawers and where I've had them stacked over the years to see how much stuff is actually there. Amazing is the polite way to put it. I've got so much. Hexagon, fan. Wow, okay, I think I'm going to be busy for a little while. I might start with the fan, I think, because I think the fan is such a beautiful shape. And what I want to do with the fan is create some sort of fringing I can see underneath that already. And then I might go onto the red glass. So I think that the fan lends itself to sort of pink and blacks. I'll just put those aside for the minute. The pinks and blacks are in there definitely. It's going to need another colour in it too, and I think the third colour is probably red, because it's actually got some really sort of tiny red pieces right in the centre there. So I think let's have a look at that one and the red glass. I'll pop those over there, move my tray out of the way and get ready to do some work. Okay, so let's have a look at this fan. So anything like this with these sort of glass pieces, the first thing to do is to mount that onto some stiff stuff, because it is automatically leaning towards a bead embroidery feature. Sorry, I'm just trying to search and find my stiff stuff in the cupboard here. There it is. And because it's got a black surround on it, I'm actually going to use some, darker or black coloured stiff stuff on that as well, just so that it, oh, there's a dark purple. That will probably do. Have I got any black here? Oh, there you go. That's on my shopping list now to get some black. But I'll use some of this dark purple stiff stuff on that. So I'm just going to cut a piece. I don't really know how big I want this to be yet. So I'll cut a reasonable size piece so that I've got enough room to work around. So a piece about that big. I really am guessing at this stage as to how much I'm going to need. But thinking about the complementary things that will go with that, I think definitely it should have a tassel with it. So let me find the loose tassels. And I know I've got some here that have got graduated colours in them. Oh, but I've also got this really special made in Morocco tassel. Look at this one with this little knotting and things on it as well. That is going to sit beautifully. I'll just move that out of the way so you can see. That will sit beautifully with that piece. So I think that's the tassel to go with that. Really nice way to sort of feature off that. What stiff stuff do I use? I generally get a lot of my coloured stiff stuff from Angie at Chicky Babes Beads, and she tends to have a different range of all sorts of colours from that. There used to be a lady called Nicole's Bead Backing, but I don't know that she makes it anymore. But I know that that's where Angie gets a lot of, has had them from. Yeah, it does. Petals in the centre. It does look like petals there. Actually, that's a really good idea, Anita. I could actually do some beaded petals that sort of came out of the top of that. Good thinking. Okay, that's something to do with that. So there's a tassel and a feature to start with. I think then the other colours I'm going to need with that are going to be some pinks, but I think it needs a really sort of palish pink to go with it. Yep, that's sort of the colour. And I like to use a bit of a mix of matte and metallic if I can, because I think it actually creates, my drawers jammed. It creates a different look when you can do some mattes and metallics together as well. So there's another pink. This is a favourite pink of mine, Dusty Orchid. So I might grab that one out too. Try and get my beads out of this drawer that are not cooperating. And there's a matte sort of pink colour to go with that as well. And then I think I might need some blacks with it too. And it would be nice to actually do, that's a nice black, that one. It's called Charcoal. A sort of not a dead straight black, but a metallic grey black colour as well. Okay, let's have a bit of a start with them. All right, so bead embroidery. First thing I need to do is glue down my centerpiece here. So I will just use my E6000 glue. This is a fresh tube. I love a fresh tube of glue. I only buy the little tubes of glue because I find they dry out way too much. So I'll take the price sticker off that. Dry out way too much, so I just like to get the little tubes and use those. So just put a nice sort of smear on the back of this. These beautiful glass pieces. They're just lovely from Lynn. So I'll just pop that right in the centre. Now some people might draw a line or a grid or something on there as well. I'm just eyeballing where the centre of that actually is. I mean, it's hard to see the black there, so I'll do my best so that you can actually see how I'm going to be beading it. I'm going to start with some fire line. You can use thread if you wanted to for bead embroidery, but for me, I'm not sort of too fussed. Sometimes I'll use thread if I want a particular colour, but because this is so dark and it is black, I am going to just use some smoke coloured fire line. Thread works as easily as well, but it's also, I think it can break a bit more sometimes too, so just finding the right size needle. And I'm going to use a size 10 needle, as I always start with a size 10 because I find them the easiest to use. I would prefer to swap to a smaller needle if I have to, rather than work with a smaller needle from the very start. So I'm already seeing that this is going to be a bead embroidered captured piece here. It is going to have some sort of petal arrangement off the top. I love that idea. Even feathers would look nice too, because it's got that sort of little feathering piece there as well. But my piece is now glued on really nicely. I'm just going to start on one edge, and then I might add a piece of, I might do some cup chain around that as well. Okay, so let's just start right with my needle right next to the cab there, and think about, I'm going to do the light pink because I really want to lighten up that outer edge from being so dark with the black edge against the fabric. So with bead embroidery, it's always start with 2 beads first. I'm starting with the size 8 beads, partly because it's quicker to build your peyote wall up around the side, and just come back through my fabric again and then back through those first 2 beads. Now with this, to do a peyote capture, you do need to have an even number of beads. So I will now pick up 4 beads every single time, and just make sure that my count is even around that. So there's 4 beads just there, and come back up through one of those bead sections and go through those 3 beads there the next time. Different ways of doing this sort of starting method of beads, beading back stitch, and some people will couch these, which means going over each of those sort of thread bridges again. It's just different methods. I'm not sure one's better than the other, but for me this is one of the ways that I like to just quickly get that very first row of bead embroidery around my piece. You can see already how that colour and lightness is making a difference against that piece of glass. So 4 beads each time, and it's got a nice curved corner as well, which does make it a little bit easier to go around. So again, I'll go back through and through sort of 5 beads. Like that. Just coming around the corner there. I think this will look really nice. I've got some black AB cup chain there too, so I'm sort of picturing that next to it as well. And you know, the whole thing with the focal is making the focal the feature of the piece. And for this one, it'll be a couple of things that are the feature: that beautiful Moroccan tassel, and then this glass piece are the 2 main features of this focal. And when I just pull that nice and taut, you can see how lovely that edge is starting to look now on there as well. So whilst I'm doing this, tell me some of the beading things that you ladies have been doing lately. I'd love to hear what you've been working on, and if any of you have got your bead station boards there, how you're finding those as well. We've had quite a few go out into the world, so I'd love to hear what people are thinking about their bead station and also what you're working on. So please let me know. I know Sandra's just been on a beading tour in the States, so I'd love to hear all about that too, Sandra, how that's actually been and your classes that you took in America. Let us know what you've been doing. It'd be fantastic to hear. I've just had a lovely weekend teaching up at Sunshine Beaders last weekend, which was fabulous. It's a bit of a must do annual event for me. I love going up to Queensland and teaching my Sunshine Beaders friends, you know, different projects. So I taught 2 projects up there just last weekend. So one was the swirl necklace and the other one was the snap, crackle and pop necklace, which was the first time that I taught that one. So that was fun to go up and teach up in Queensland. How do I know how far to go? Oh, absolutely. I'm eyeballing this every single time, Kat. It's really just once you sort of work out that length of thread that you need to do for your 4 beads, it is a matter of eyeballing. You do have a little bit of forgiveness in that. I mean, I can sort of see it by when I pop the beads on the needle like that, how far I need to go. So it's really just, okay, it's about that far. So it really is eyeballing, and that is experience that helps with that. But because you've got a little bit of flex there, I can be, a mil, couple of mil out. It's not really going to matter. It just helps to, if you can get it as accurate as possible, that does help. But it doesn't matter if you're a couple of mil either side. But I'm just sort of guessing, how far 4 beads actually is. You can go a little bit slower and do 2 beads at a time if that's easier for you to see it. It just takes a bit longer to get your piece done. So yeah, I tend, particularly on these larger pieces with lots of sort of long straight edges, to do 4 beads rather than 2. Just makes it happen a bit faster. And I do hope some of you are beading along while you're actually watching this as well. Great time to sit and do your own work too. And of course, ask me any questions. More than happy to answer those. I love the reflection. I don't know if you can see that, but the reflection of the beads that are just sitting there alongside that black really just creates another dimension when looking at those. It's lovely. So Silver Moon Lynn is where this particular fan shape has come from. But I'm not sure Lynn's actually making any glass at the moment. So again, something that I've hoarded out of my stash. You just finished a piece for your mum for Mother's Day. Good job, Kath. I tend to give my mum beaded pieces for Mother's Day as well. I think last year she got a shrinkets brooch that I'd made, or pendant. I can't remember, a brooch or a pendant. So yeah, I do tend to give my mum beaded pieces too. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, hey, Linda. Yeah, Silver Moon cabs are fantastic, aren't they? I love them. This looks beautiful. You can just see that pink and black is a really strong contrast. Now when I'm getting towards the end here, remember I want to make sure that my number of beads that I put around this cab are even. So I started with 2, I've picked up 4 every single time. So I don't know what the total is, but I know that it's even. And when I'm getting towards the end here, what I don't want to do is squash in beads. I'd rather have be a little bit more gappy than have it too squashed together. So I'm just going to try 4, and ironically, would you believe that's how many beads I've put out on my mat here? Exactly 4 beads. And I think that's going to be just the right number. What I'm going to do though is I'm actually, rather than bead down into the work, I'm going back through the very first bead added there. Yep, and look at that. There's that beautiful finish on those. I'm just going to attach that last by going through a couple of those thread bridges there, straightening that up. And here is the first round of bead embroidery done on one of Lynn's cabs. So I really like the look of that. I think, as I said, I want to put some cup chain around that next. So I'm just going to grab some out, and that is in here. Now cup chain, I did say I thought I had some AB black shiny. I know I've got some pink here as well. Oh, I've got that lovely hot pink. We'll see what that looks like. And I've got some black. I thought I did have, but who knows. Okay, let's find this and this and see how this goes. So there's some hot pink cup chain. This is this nice sort of metallic, and that might work because remember how I said about the red sort of colour, I could pretty much bring that hot pink colour in. So there's that colour. Or There's hot pink. Fantastic, Sandra. I'm glad you had a great time. I know the trips I've done to the States for beading have been amazing. So glad to hear that you had a great time. Or the pale pink. What do you think? The pale pink blends a lot more. Blends. I think the hot pink looks a lot more contrast. I think I probably like the hot pink. All right, I'm not going to attach that yet. I just wanted to have that sort of in the back of my mind, either the hot pink or the pale pink. Oh, it could be really tricky. I could do 2 rows if I wanted to torture myself and do 2 rows of cup chain, because cup chain's not easy to work with. Okay, let's just put that aside for the minute. All right, the next thing I'm going to do now, remember, all I've done is glued this down. I actually haven't stitched it, so it's not secure yet. So I need to do another row to actually secure it. Now my second row, I'm actually going to do black, and I'm going to contrast that pale pink with some black size 8s. And is that as black size 8? Yes, it is. And it's matched too. So I really like the idea now of putting some matte size 8 beads. So 1 row of black size 8 beads on this. I will show you how to attach cup chain, Kath. It's so spectacular when you have cup chain in your piece. It's bloody horrible to work with though. It's gets a bit caught on things, and you've got to really line up exactly where you want your join to be, but that's okay. That's what we're here for, is to learn that. So you can see there I've just done 1 black bead, so I'm just going to continue on doing black peyote stitch just of 1 bead each time. And of course, when you're doing peyote on a capture around anything like this, it is a matter of just reducing either your bead size or your bead count to make that come over the top. So my next row will be a size 11 bead in this to actually start to reduce that bead size down so that it curves over the edge of the cabochon. So there are, Catherine, you've asked a question there about turning a brooch, a pendant into a brooch. Absolutely, you can do that. So one of the ways is to build in, there are some components that are brooch pin backs that have little sort of pendant bails on them as well. And Linda or Angie might be able to tell us about those types of things that you can actually buy. So you can put your brooch back, build it into your work, and if it's got that little sort of pendant bail in it as well, it means that you can utilize it for both. So that's one way. Another way, you know, that magnetic brooch that I showed a little bit earlier, that is really flat and unobtrusive on the back of your piece. So you could just build that into a piece but have a detachable rope that was on your pendant. And another way to sort of make that detachable rope is that you can create a piece that's got, you know, a beautiful toggle, and then your toggle can be a feature as well, and you can remove it by taking off that whole sort of pendant and toggle piece. So the different ways, but certainly creating a multi-use of pendant and brooch is a really good idea when you've got a lovely focal piece, because you want to be able to get as much wear as possible out of something like that. Okay, so you can see how that black now has just really created that definition there. And then when I do the next row of pink, it will just, pop right out. So it's creating this really nice sort of striped effect around the side of my piece here. And I'll just say how much when I'm doing these sessions, I literally do not know what I'm going to make. So thank you for helping me decide on this. So this one will be today the fan piece, and I'm going to have a go at doing something with that red glass as well, because it was so popular. And then of course, you know, looking at the square and making a brooch. If only I had enough time to do all the things that I would love to do in one session with these, but we'll get a couple of them done today. So I also want you to really think about your own focals and your own stash of things that you've either been hoarding like me, buying for a rainy day. Make sure you use them up. They're so beautiful, all these pieces that we've gotten from different artists over the years, that it's a shame to just have them sitting in drawers and not being used. This is the intent for which they've been made, is to be used. So Yeah, let's get them out and use them. I think using your focals is a beautiful way to just appreciate what the artist has actually made, and adding beads to it puts your own spin on it. That's my take on it anyway. Now, I've also got coming up in the next couple of weeks my bead along on freeform peyote. So I've only got a couple of spots left. So if you are interested in that and you're in the Honest String VIP group, please register. I think there's maybe 3 spots left in that bead along. Bead alongs go for 3 months. We work on the same project together. You use all your own beads. We have a monthly session where we just talk about our work and what we've been doing around that particular project, and I provide some resources and guides. I'm not teaching you as such, but we just all bead along and create our own projects. And the last one we did was the kaleidocycle, which was fantastic. Great to see some finished kaleidocycles come out of that particular project. And I'd love to see you involved in the next bead along if you wish to. So please have a look for that in the Honest String VIP group and join in if you want to. Okay, there's my first row done. And I'm just popping out some of these pale pink matte beads as well. So it's actually called matte metallic pink. Okay. Linda, I think you're spot on. Buying the cabs, looking at them and using them are 3 different things. Yes, I think you're right. You're a bit like me, Linda. I know you've got a bit of a stash of cabs as well. They certainly are a joy just to look at each time. So I'm now using the smaller pale pink matte bead there too. We'll call matte metallic. I think I might possibly need 1 more row of 8s though. I don't see, it's still a little gappy just there. It's because Lynn's pieces are thick, I think I need 1 more row of 8. So I'm just going to pop those out and grab out, and I know I've got a size 8 in this particular bead, so I will still get the same effect, but it'll be just filled a little bit more. Let me just grab out the pale pink 8s in that. Matte. There we go. I sorted out my pink bead drawer the other day because I did have beads all over the place. And it's a little bit tidier now, which is good. Okay, the size 8 one rather than the 11. Yeah, that's just filling that gap a bit better. So again, I'm just going to do 1 row there of that pale pink matte size 8 bead. So that's 3 rows of 8s that I've done on this piece. And if I'd used a size 11 or, Delica beads, you get a similar effect, but it just takes longer because they're smaller beads. So don't be frightened of using your size 8 beads. They are a fabulous way to get work done relatively quickly. They've got big holes, they're really easy to use, and I know that I'm a bit of a snob sometimes too, in that I love to work with size 15s and 11s, but for something like this, the size 8 works beautifully well on that piece. Now just around the corners there, you can see there it's a little tighter because I'm going around that curve. That's okay. I wouldn't do another row of size 8 after this one because they will be too big. Just 1 row, 1 extra row will be enough. And that's just going to finish that off. Then I might do some sort of metallic, I think, final row, because I think the metallic final row, and it could be, I might just do like 2 size 15s maybe, we'll see, and peyote those, and they could just go around that pink. So maybe, I think maybe a blackish sort of metallic. I might have some, I think I've got some size 15 jet slipperit beads there, which they might work really well with this too. The other thing is all of these beads that I've used so far are Toho beads as well. So the Toho beads are slightly squarer than a Miyuki bead. Sometimes I have a preference, sometimes I don't, but for this I'm not too worried about using a Toho instead of a Miyuki. As I said, it's just got a sort of squarer shape to it rather than rounded, but they're all Toho that I've used so far today. Yes, Glenda's got 4 hobbies: making the cabs, buying the cabs, storing the cabs, using the cabs. There's a few of our artists out there that are multi-talented and do all 4 of those things. So, and as I said earlier, thanks Glenda for the suggestion on focals today. A really great way for me to visit my stash of beads and think about what I wanted to utilise. I even have a drawer in the cupboard that's called backed focals, and I pulled out, I had about 10 or 15 different focals that I'd glued onto stiff stuff and not done anything with. So there's another sort of unfinished. Maybe I should do a session on UFOs at some point, how to finish things off. I'd love to actually see if other people are interested in, showing their unfinished objects and doing a session on that as well. That'd be fun. I'd like to see that. Okay, there's my second or third round of peyote around that piece. Now I'm going to have a look and see if I can find these jet slipperet beads, because I'm pretty sure I've got some size 15s in those somewhere in here. I want a sparkly 15, not a matte or a opaque. And the reason I want to have sparkle is that little bit of sparkle is just going to sit, that one will do. That's just going to sit really nicely on that cab. So what have I got here? This is called a 15458. And again, just something out of my stash, not a bead that I've, specifically bought for this. And I'm just going to try 2 size 15s in between each one here. Yep, that's going to work. So the little 2 15s are sitting on top of the matte black bead there. And when I'm going around these really tight corners, I may only just pop 1 15 in there as well. So these 15s have just got a little bit of sheen to them. They're not that one's not a nice one. A little bit of sheen. They're not flat. Really subtle. But when I'm around this really tight corner here, I'm just going to pop 1 in each of these corners. Like that. So that helps with tightening and bringing that all together. Probably just on 3 of those little angles there. Will I just use 1 bead? Just got to remember to do the same thing on the other side as well. So yeah, 3 just a single 15s over that there. You see that? And then I'll just keep going with 2. Then when I get down to that bottom curve as well, I'll probably put 1 in each of those too. And what that helps do is also just tighten this over the edge of the glass. I don't want to be going too far over the edge because I want it to be secure, but I don't want to lose the impact of the glass either. So it's a bit of a fine balance when you do this sort of capture of a beautiful focal, that you don't want to lose the impact of your focal as well. Maybe 1 more set. So I'm just going to eyeball this again. I probably want that to be 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Yeah, maybe just 3 sets, 3 singles. There's a 2, just so that I've got 3, 3, and 3, I think, on those little angles of that triangle. Single, single. Or maybe it might need a 4th. I'll have another look at that in a second. Okay, no, 2 will be fine. So I just wanted to make sure that these are even. Oh, great. Angie has a couple of styles of brooch to pendant converters, horizontal and vertical style. I think I've used one of your horizontal ones maybe before. Absolutely. So, Kath, check in with Angie in terms of brooch to pendant converters that she actually has. So if you can, get a piece that works, it's a really good way to create a multi-use piece. Angie was up there teaching at Sunshine Beaders as well last weekend, taught multiple classes, so it's always a fun function to go to. So if you're looking for somewhere to travel, head up to Queensland next year. It's always on their long weekend in May to Sunshine Beaders. Angie and I have both been teaching up there for a long time. I really enjoy going there, and I know that she does too. So look out for Sunshine Beaders next year in 2026. Can you believe that? 2026? Goodness. So I'm back to where I need to do that sort of single bead again on this side here. So again, I'm just going to pop one bead in each of those sort of spots in the corners. Like that. Okay. Looks pretty good. And I'll just pop two now on each of those and finish that piece off. So the next thing to do, I think, is add some cup chain. So cup chain, the pale pink. Did the pale pink win or the hot pink? Anybody? I know Linda preferred the pale pink. The cup chain will just give that little bit of razzle dazzle and sparkle. I think the other thing to think about is with that particular tassel, it's a beautiful, as I said, Moroccan tassel. So it's got lovely features in its own right, but I will want to add a couple of beads onto it as well so that ties in with this piece. Okay, and I'll just finish that, and then there we go. There's my piece now beautifully captured. Hot pink, 2 hot pink, 3 hot pink. Okay. Rosemary said hot pink. That's not a rosemary colour. Okay. Hot pink. Oh. Yeah, I think it's a hot pink too. Okay, there's the hot pink. Now, cup chain. First thing to do is work out how much flex is in your cup chain. So some of them sort of jump to, they join together really easily. Look, this has got a fair amount of flex in it, this cup chain. So when it's got a bit of flex, you just got to think about how much flex is in your piece when you're wrapping it around. So if I wrap it around my piece like this, and I pull it so that it flexes all the way, I've got no sort of wiggle room there. But if I sort of push my little tails together, I need to cut a bit of a longer piece, but it gives me a little bit more freedom with how much that I need. So I'm just going to get my little snippers here, and I'm just going to snip off a little bit longer than what I actually need. I'd rather have too much and cut off one than not have enough and then put a single piece of cup chain in. That's a pain. Now the other tip that I got, and this, I think it was Katrina who told me this tip, was to add a tiny drop of glue underneath your first cup chain piece. So there's just a little tiny drop on the end of my awl there. And I'm just going to pop a little bit of glue just sort of here on my piece so that my cup chain starts to stick as I add it. The other suggestion with cup chain is to start on a straight edge, not a curved edge. Bit easier to sort of set it up where you need it to be. Now I'm just going to place it there at the top. Remember, I put that little bit of glue just to sort of hold that piece there as my starting piece. And I need to bring my needle back down to the bottom of my work there. Should have done that first. Just rethread that. And then what you need to do with cup chain is you actually have to capture each of those little bridges between the crystal components. So it's a matter of stitching up and stitching down across each of those little bridges. Okay, So my first one is sort of held very, very gently in place with a piece of glue, a little bit of glue. I'm just going to bring the needle right up next to the work there. Just pop that where I want it to be. And then I'm just going to use that thread to go over that little thread metal piece and pop the needle back down into the work like that. Very gently, and that's captured that first piece there. I'll then come up through the next little bridge like that and go across that little metal component and pull that taut. So there's 2 stitched down. So it's a little bit time consuming, but the effect that you get from having that sparkle I think is fabulous. So it's definitely worth doing. You do have to stitch every single metallic piece down just so that it sits nice and flat. But you can see that little bit of flex that I have in this cup chain means that it sort of just slightly moves. When I say slightly, it's minuscule how much it actually moves. But I'm just pulling that gently so that it sits really nice and flat against the work and doing that little thread over the top of every one of them. So there's the first little piece of cup chain. So let me just do another check. Is it going to fit? Oh yes, good, good, good. So the other trick to manage when you're doing your cup chain is making sure that you've got enough room so that it sits flat. It does tend to curl a little bit, so you've just got to keep, checking and making it sit flat on your work as well. So I'm going to just keep going with doing that. Definitely fiddly, but definitely worth it. So it's easy way to add instant sparkle to your piece. I think the other thing I like about it, the finished edge of cup chain is really nice as well. If this is the finished side of my piece, this sits beautifully just on that edge. And it's just a matter of gently, pulling that around the curve. Always, tools like the awl really help with holding that in place where I want it to be as well. And bringing the needle right next to the cabochon and then in that little thread bridge. Now, are people beading along with me while they're watching this? Let me know what someone was doing a Mother's Day piece. That was Kath, I think. What are other people working on? It's all in the angle of the dangle when you hold this to get it to be in the right spot. Okay, I know I'm making this look really easy, aren't I? It is fiddly. The other beauty of cup chain is you don't need a lot. You don't need a lot to make a pretty good impact as well. So it's not always cheap to buy, but you can buy small amounts. You don't need huge amounts of it. But for, you know, something that's not overly expensive, but it can make a really nice impact really effectively. So yeah, if you haven't got cup chain in your stash, check some out. It's yeah, fun to always have and add that little bit extra sparkle when you need it. A couple of other pieces I've used this on, you know, you might just use it around one specific component. In a large bead embroidery piece, you can, as I'm doing here, around the entire edge of the finished piece. You can also add little strips in as well, just depending upon what you're beading on, but really good way to add maximum sparkle relatively quickly. So what are we working on? Shelley's watching. Fantastic. Thanks, Shelley. Anita's playing around with different colours to match a copper toned drop bead. Oh, copper. So I think green always goes really well with copper, as does blue. Green and blue are great contrasts with copper, and orange is another great way to have a similar tonal colour with copper. Interested to see how that looks when you're finished, Anita. Emily's working on her tape measure. Fantastic. Beaded tape measure is a very handy tool to have in your bead kit. And Rosemary is making a Christmas decoration. Rosemary, it's July. No, it's May, but good on you getting your Christmas decoration sorted. But I love to see you finish an unfinished focal. That'd be fantastic too. And what else have we got? Linda's making earrings to match a polymer clay into a pendant for Mother's Day. Mum's at the shop, is she though? So metallic pink and green iris with copper. Fantastic, Anita. That'll be terrific. Those colour cubes, colour cards that I bought, I think I've showed those before. They're fantastic when you're trying to see colours that go really well together. Okay, now I'm getting towards the end here. So I could probably fit 3 more in or 2 more in. I think I'm going to try for 3 more. So I'm going to cut off 2 of my pieces. And then I can always cut off another one if I need to. And the other thing I'm going to do is pop a little tiny bit of glue again at that very end piece as well. So a little bit of glue just helps to hold that edge. Again, just use my awl to pop the glue on there. Push that into place like that. Yep, 3 fits. And then I'm just going to stitch those last couple down. And then I'm going to add a new thread shortly as well, because I'm nearly finished that thread. And look at that beautiful cup chain circle around that piece. Really sparkly, just adds that extra dimension. Okay, now I'm going to back this piece with a piece of leather and have a guess what colour I'm going to use. I think you know me enough to know what colour I might use on the back of this. If I can find some. Because as much as you don't really see the back, it is nice to have it nicely finished as well. So I'm going to find, there's my nice big stash of leather here. And I want to find a really cool colour to put on the back. Again, leather's something else that can be a beautiful focal too. And it works really well, you know, if you want to see a little bit of your work through the leather, you can actually do that as well. Look at what colour I'm going to put on the back of that. Could you have guessed that? A little piece of hot pink leather there. Oh, hi Lorraine, nice to hear you here too as well. Lorraine's working on Christmas decorations too. You're all very industrious for Christmas. Okay, I'll just cut off a piece of that. This is beautiful soft leather here. And I'm now going to trim this. Now I did a bigger piece of stiff stuff because I really wasn't sure what I was going to make with it. This is way too big for what I needed. So I'm just going to trim that right back now. Now when you're trimming your stiff stuff, the secret is hold your scissors straight up and down as you're cutting around your piece. You can always feel, particularly if you use fire line, if you're going to cut through any threads, but I've sort of done these little stitches very, very close to the center of that cup chain, so I'm really confident that I'm not going to cut through any threads. And look at that, you can see on the back here I've not cut through any of those stitches just there when I cut that piece out. So there's my beautiful fan. I've still got my thread attached here as well, and what I want to do is glue that down now onto that leather. And then once I've glued it down, I'll trim away that excess leather as well. So just pop a little bit of glue on the back like that. Always good to sort of do it over those stitches too. Pop that right in the center there. Just like that. And now I'm just going to trim off that excess leather. So again, straight up and down, although I'm not cutting through any stitching or anything with this. And then I'm going to do one final row of edge stitching around this. Keep that thread because I'll join on a new thread to that in a moment. So there's my, and I think it looks beautiful without that distraction of the dark around the edge as well. Looks really nice with that sort of hot pink. There's the backed leather on there too. Just trim that a slight bit more. And how beautiful does that fan look now? With that bit of sparkle, etc. Okay, so now I'm going to do the edge. Now the edge I think I'll do in black. And remember I grabbed out these metallic black beads. I think that's what I'll actually utilise. The other edge I really do like is a O beads or a demi-round bead as well, which I might grab those actually, because one of the reasons I love that demi-round finish is the laciness that you actually get from it. So it looks really nice as a really lacy edge finish. So I'm going to use some black demi-rounds in that. And I'm going to join some new thread on first because I'm almost out of thread. So the way that I like to join thread is like this. I tie a loop in my new thread. I get my working thread. I pop the loop over the top of the working thread and just tie my knot down where I want it to be. I love this method because you can get the knot close to your work. I then give them a nice clean haircut and snip off those two edges there. Get my handy cigarette lighter and just melt those two ends together and then pull those nice and taut. Rub my thumb and forefinger over the top of those, and there's my nice joined thread with a knot that's not too far into the work to have to be dragged through. And actually I might have to move it anyway because of the leather, but that's okay. Let's just have a go with this first. So I'm just going to thread my needle here. Yeah, I probably should have made that knot a bit closer, but that's all right. We'll see how it goes. The closer it is to the work, the less I've got to drag it through. Okay, so I'm going to start at the top here. Now, I'm going to pick up a demi-round, a sparkly bead and a demi-round. I'm just going to come up through two beads here, 2 beads width. So I'm just sort of guessing that 2 beads width of the, is it not going to come through? No, it's not. Of course it's not. Oh no, it's caught there. Yep, it did come through. Beautiful. Okay, I've picked up 3 beads here, and then I'm just going to come back up through the demi-round. So what I'm going to be doing now is creating my edge beads in one step. So I pick up the sparkly bead and then the demi-round bead, go 1 bead's width through both the leather and the stiff stuff, like that. Oh, just pulled it right through. Do that again. And then just come up through the demi-round bead. And what that's doing is creating that little edge, demi-round and metallic beads together. So again, just through one bead's width. And pull that through the demi-round. So my edge is all part of the same step. You can go through and just do all demi-rounds and then do a little edge stitch as well with a different bead, but I'm just minimising how many steps I need to do by incorporating them into one. The other thing this does is gives me a really nice gap if I wanted to put something else in between there as well. So always thinking, is this enough? Do I need to add something else to it? And doing it like this gives me options if I wanted to incorporate something else into this edge. I still like this idea of them some sort of petal formation or something from the top of this, as Anita suggested. So I'll have, once I get this bit done, I'll have a think about that, because I've got this lovely gap here that I could add some sort of fringing. Thanks, Julie. Yes, that's a great tip. Don't go all the very way to the edge when you're doing bead embroidery with your glue, because sometimes it can make it really hard to get your needle through that glue as well. This particular leather that I'm using is really soft. It's really easy to get the needle through. But if you're using a leather that's a little bit stiffer and harder, you might actually need what's called a glover's needle to get through that. And that's a very sharp little leather beading needle. This one is fine. I'm just using my normal beading needle to get through both the leather and the stiff stuff. But yeah, sometimes if it is really stiff leather, you might need a glover's needle to do that. The other thing this is enabling me to do is also just put an extra stitch in that cup chain as well. Sometimes it just depends on where my needle sort of lands. I'm coming up on the inside of the work, and it means that I've got the opportunity to do another row of securing that cup chain as well. So just extra precautions in stitching that in. Just got to be careful that it doesn't get caught on the little cup chain pins, but yes, you can just do that. So there you go, there's my little edge sort of started with that as well. Sparkle happening on different ends, matte sort of happening on different spots as well, all happening with this. But I love this idea of some sort of fan shaped or petal shapes coming off the top of this as well. The other thing with these size 8 demi-round beads, they're a great finished edge on this piece, and it makes it relatively quick to do that beaded edge with it as well. But what I love about them is they're so skinny and they're flat right against your beadwork, so it doesn't sort of stick out too much as well. The demi-rounds, if you've done classes with me, you know how much I love them and use them in lots of my work. But for bead embroidery particularly, this finished edge, I think they're fabulous. It's a very satisfying stitch doing this one. Just finishes off your work so beautifully, but it just you know, sandwiching your layers together and seeing that nice finished edge happen. It's beautiful. Beautiful thing. I have left Honeybun outside today because my husband is away, so she's outside on her own and she's banging on the back door to be let in, but she can stay outside. Linda, you are correct. I do use demi-rounds to do this more than seed beads, to do this edge. I just love the finish of this edge with the demi-round beads. And O beads too, they're another great one to use for this. They're a bit bigger and flatter than the demi-round, but again, they make a really lovely finish. The other thing with this little gap that I'm now going to have on this bottom edge, this is going to be perfect for when we want to add the tassel at some point, some sort of attach. Yes, there are two sides of demi-rounds, Kat. There are size 8s and size 11s. These are size 8s that I'm using. I tend to use these more than the 11s. The 11s are just a bit little for this. But yeah, size 8 demi-rounds are perfect for doing this sort of edge work. And of course, they come in all the different colours, you know, blacks, whites, gold, silvers, coppers, you know, all different ones. So Linda and Angie, I think, both stock different sizes in demi-round beads. And some of them are, I think they might be called Miyuki, they're called spacers, and Toho call them demi-rounds. I think I've got that right. But they do pretty much the same effect each time. So yeah, another great bead to have in your stash is the demi-round bead. Now, who's got some focal beads out there that they're thinking now of pulling out and doing a bit of a poll on, you know, which ones to use? It'd be lovely to see other people ask for advice of which focal bead to work with. You saw my some of the stash of my focals that I shared with you earlier today. If you've got a great stash of focals, pop it in the Honor String VIP group. I'd love to see your different focal beads that you have as well, and particularly see you start to use them because they are such beautiful beads to have as part of our beadwork. Yeah, focal beads are beautiful. Okay, so there, Linda's given us some, what are they? 6, 8, 11 in O beads are 1, and Miyuki spacers are 2.2 and 3, so 8s and 11s. Okay, there you go, Kat. There's lots of things for you to think about in terms of building your stash with some demi-round beads in different sizes. They make a lovely bead in bead weaving as well. There's different projects I've utilised them in. My tassel pendant uses 2 styles of demi-rounds, as does the carousel pendant. So both of those, it's a really good spacer bead when you are, you know, filling in gaps, etc. in your beadwork. But yeah, really great versatile bead is the demi-round bead. I don't know if you can send photos in this chat. I don't know how that side of things works, but absolutely put photos in the Honor String VIPs group. You can start a chat in that says focal beads. It'd be fantastic. I'd love to see some people popping their focal beads in there. I don't know if it allows you to have photos in the chat. I don't know how that part of it works on this, but definitely pop them into the Honor String VIPs group. Okay, I'm nearly at the end of this. What's that taking me? About an hour. That's not too bad. Hours work getting to this point. Now, if I wasn't a beader, I could say that was almost finished, couldn't I? But because I'm a beader, I'm going to do more to this. So the more to this is going to be adding the tassel, adding some sort of decoration on those top beads as well. If I had have, could possibly have put some sort of magnetic back on that. I didn't, but anyway, we are where we are. Okay, now I'm at the very end. So all I need to do is now just pick up one of the size 11 beads. I'm just going to flip my work over so it's easier to see, and then go back through the very first demi round that I added. And that's just going to close that gap just nicely, so you can see there that's closed, and just come back up through there and stitch it in place. So there's my edge all the way around the piece. And I'm going to look for some sort of hot pink beads to pop in that section there. So I've probably got something like a gem duo maybe, or just sort of thinking of a 2-hole bead in pink colours. It's going to pop into that space there. So there's, what are they? I've got some kite beads. That might work. What else have I got in pink in here? Oh, they're nice. There's some gem duos in the slipperit colours. And what are they? Oh, they're nice. Paisley beads in slipperit as well. Now slipperit, I don't know if I'll show you a bit closer what slipperit is, but it's a black with a sort of a hot pink and rosy gold sort of tones to it, and black. It's a really nice finish. It matches well with this. Okay, so I've got some hot pink nib beads. There's one choice. Let's see what they look like. Some of those. I've got some fantastic, thanks Kath for doing that, some ginkgo beads in the slipperit colours as well. Ginkgos are really tricky to work with, I find, because of the way the holes go. What are they? There's some gem duos in slipperit. Some paisleys in slipperit too. They'll be a little bit tricky because they go in one direction. And some kite beads in pink. Okay, lots of choices to put on here. Now, my sort of vision is that I'm going to come out of that size 11 bead there, and something's going to fit just nicely in that hole, is what I'm thinking. So there's a nibbit bead. Now that fits there nicely in that little point, but I think I'm only going to be able to fit in one at a time because of the wideness of it. So I'll pop a pink bead in there and then another nib bead and see how that looks. Now these being a 2-hole bead means that I can put something else in between there, which might then potentially be a crystal or a round as well in there. So let's just try that. So pink or black, I don't know yet. I'll do the pink. So the nibbit bead, what do we think about that? Not a bad look. I'm just going to pull those out though, and I'm going to try the gem duo instead, because I love the look of that slipperit colour in that. Again, the gem duo is another 2-hole bead, so, and with a point it might just be that I can put one in between each rather than alternate it with the size 11 bead. So the gem duo bead, just got to pick it up the right way. Yeah, I think I like that better actually, the pointy gem duo rather than nib bead. Okay, I'm going to take the nib bead out. That looks like a tooth. So those ones can go back over there because I'm not going to utilise them. As always, these things are sort of, trial and error while I'm sort of designing them on the go. But that's what when you build a bit of a stash of different things, you can experiment. And particularly even if you're following patterns at times too, and they call for a particular 2-hole bead, often they're very, very similar in size. So you can alternate them depending upon what it is. But don't be frightened to swap out one bead for another whilst you're trialing something. If the first one doesn't work, just trial a different size and shape. Okay, so let's try that gem duo again. Yeah, I like that one. I like the way that little point just fits there in there. And I'm going to try the black one rather than the pink in the middle of that. And because that looks a little bit more petals. Exactly. Yeah, I agree. That looks more like petals. Now, do I need to pop a black one in between? Let's just see whether I can get away with just doing all gem duos. I might be able to because of the points of that. Sorry, my camera just flipped down then. Oh gosh, I'm dropping everything here. Okay, I'll try that again. You can tell when it's live, can't you? I'm up too high. I'll bring that down a bit. There we go. That's better, Paula. Okay, gem duo in there, and let's just pop another one in. So now I'm going to pop them right next to each other. Yeah, no, I need they're just a little bit firm, one right next to each other. I do need to put a spacer bead in between. Okay, so go back to my drawing board over here. I think I'll go back to the pale pink. And just pop that in, yep. So here I am back to sort of what I'd started with, the pale pink in between, but with the gem duos instead of the nib beads. And just keep popping them around. Okay, when stitching on the cup bead, do I go from the outside in? I go into the out when stitching the cup chain. So you put your needle right next to your work on the inside, then put your cup chain in place. But yeah, right next to it is the way to actually do that. So look at that. There's my little feathery petals on the outside. I'm just going to go and let my dog in. So look at that whilst I go and let her in the door. She's going outside. The dog door open so she can come in, and she's racing inside now. Come on, come on, come on. Good girl, good girl, good girl. So say hello to everybody. There's Honey Bun. Say hello. And now you can go and hop in your bed and go to sleep. All right, go and have a snooze now. Okay. She's happy now. She's come in and said hello to everybody, and now she can hop in her bed and have a little sleep. Okay, so yeah, the gem duo is actually perfect on this. So it's just a matter of picking up the right way and the right hole size, just like that. Now, the next question will be, and I think I know the answer, but I want to see what people think. Will I go all the way around the outside, or will I come around the bottom edge? So I think I might just go around the top edge, not necessarily all the way around the bottom, because I want it to be that sort of same fan feature of the petals, like that. So I think it's only going to be around that top edge. Maybe one more that way. Yep. And then I'm going to do something else around this bottom here as well. I will come back up and do the other side. So let's just check that my numbering is going to be right. So if that's a gem 11, gem 11, gem 11, gem 11, gem 11, no. Okay, so I need to start. So 11, gem 11, gem 11, gem 11, gem 11, gem 11. Okay, I'll need to make sure that that's relatively even. Think about that. Worry about that when I get around to that point. Okay, now I've got this other sort of holy edge here that I need to put something in. So I think now it's a matter of just one of those pale pink ones in between each of those, just like that. Again, and it just finishes off that work beautifully. Really nice, even edge now. And what it's also done with this pale pink is reflected the same pale pink edging that I've got here around the cab. So complementary edging to the edge around the cabochon. So just sort of, again, hadn't really planned that that's what it was going to be, but once you get to that point, you can see the logic in why that works. I will come and do something more on these at the top edge up here, and it could be that, you know, we could add in maybe one of these kite beads or something else. Anyway, we'll think about that when I get to that point, but I'm just going to keep adding those and remembering that at the bottom here, I'm going to be adding a joining the tassel in somehow as well. So not sure what that's going to look like just yet, but I will be adding the tassel in there somehow too. Okay, now because it's got this sort of curve at the bottom here that's wider than the curve on the sides there, I'm possibly going to use the size 8 beads in that gap because it's a little bit bigger. But again, it's exactly the same bead that I was using before in that centre piece, and it is the same as the pale pink ones around the 11s. But what that does, it also then gives me a really good anchor point there for when I'm going to attach that tassel. Yes, I am, Rosemary. It will be balanced. So when you look at this like this, the tassel's actually going to balance out that sort of wider triangle top down to the bottom. But now that I've done this lovely little, you know, sort of 4 beads of 11s here, I could potentially do a little bit of peyote to make that a point, possibly. So let's get this edge finished first, and then I'll come back to attaching the tassel. So again, I'm just going to do these size 11s now up the side here. When I get to the corner, then I'll be swapping back to doing the gem duo and 11s as well. Just like that. Now, am I at the same point to be able to add a gem duo? If I'm just eyeball it, so if I do gem 11, gem 11, gem 11, gem 11, gem 11, gem. Okay, so that's where I need to add one more 11 bead there, and now do my gems. Yep, that's it. Okay, I need some more gem duos. $11. Okay, I'm nearly at the end here. Just pop one more 11 in place, like that. Okay, look at that. What do you think about that? Looks pretty special. So I'm going to do something else, I think, in between here. No, not that one. Because remember, I've got these lovely, holes on the Gem Duo. I mean, it could be a matter of just doing some sort of bead around it, potentially. That might work. So if I was going to do something like, I probably need a size 15 bead, but I want a different colour than the blackish ones, I think. Because I could do like 15s up and around each and really accentuate those sort of petal shapes. I think that's probably what it'll be. I need a 15 in pinkish colours. So here's a pale pink 15. Oh, actually, you know what I need? The hot pink 15. There we go. Because the hot pink is really going to then tie in with that rest of that hot pink cup chain colour that I had. And if I could eventually get this drawer opened properly, something's well and truly jammed in there. I've got some lovely, lovely hot pink size 15s. This colour here, this fuchsia-y sort of colour. Blush. That's exactly what I'm going to do, Julie. Some sticky out thingies like seed beads. Okay, so remember Gem Duos have got holes either side. So I'm just going to pick up 3 hot pink beads. 3 or 4, I don't know how many I'm going to need yet. I'm going to need 4, not 3. There you go. There's the first answer. So at least 4 and go through the side there. So you can see there, and what I'll do is then I think they will join onto the next one, I think. So 4. Now, where are they going to come out of? Actually, that's not correct. Let me just undo that. I need to be coming out of the size 11 bead there, not the size 11 pink bead. So let me just go through a couple more steps there, because what I want to use is that pink bead as a bit of an anchor up the side of that Gem Duo. So again, I'm going to pick up 4 of the hot pink, go through the Gem Duo, yep, like that. And then 1, 2, 3, 4 of the hot pink again, then through the size 11 bead. Now, I will come back and put a little peak on the top of each of those. It will work, but yeah, 4 of the hot pink through that Gem Duo top bead. See how that's just mimicked that shape there really well. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4 through the 11. Yeah, really happy with that. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then through the Gem Duo. 1, 2, 3, 4. Through the pale pink. And see how that's just mimicked that colour, and yeah, it's actually come together really well. Well, there's an 11 in that stash. 1, 2, 3, 4, and up through the top. 3, 4, through the 11, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 through the top. What do you reckon? One, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so again, back down through that 11 bead. So now I want to come back. Obviously, I need to do the other side here as well, and I will get to that. I also want to do little peaks over the top of each of those. So I'm just going to bring my thread back through that work there, through that thread bridge, because I'm just trying to reverse direction. And I'm just going to do that a couple of times so that it's sort of secure. Now, you know, I'm reversing direction because of where I've started from in this. If, you know, if you're doing more of a plan other than what I did here, you might not start right in the middle of your little row of gem duos. You might have started at an edge, but I didn't start at the edge, did I? Okay, so I think I'm probably going to need at least 5, and I might try 1 black in the middle. So 5 beads over the top. I'm just going to come down through 3 beads. Yep. I'm going to pick up 1 more black, and then I'm going to go up through 3 beads. So I'm skipping the first of those little hot pinks. I'm just popping 1 black one in between there. And again, I'll pick up 1, 2 pink, 1 black, 2 pink, come down through 3, like that, 1 black, and up through 3. So what that's also done, it's really helping those sit nice and flat as well. But again, that little bit of black, just tying that back in. So it's all about, you know, sort of matching those colours to fit in with the overall piece. So again, just down through 3, pick up 1 black, up through 3. Yeah, looks pretty good. Okay, 1, 2, 1 black. Now I'm going to be stuck because I haven't got my pinks on the other side, have I? So I'll need to add them. Okay. Now, as I said, if you had started this in, you know, at the end rather than the middle like I did, you wouldn't be going back and swapping directions. But unfortunately, I started where I started, so I'll just have to finish that off. So again, I'm just popping my 4 hot pink beads either side of the gem duo by going through that 11 bead that we'd had at the bottom, and adding those either side. So you can see what I need to finish then to add the rest of those black. Why 3 beads and not all 4? Okay, so the reason I did 3 was because I think it'd be too jammed to go all the way down to 4, but I wanted to add that little black one in the center just to help make those flat, those edges around the gem duos to sit flat. If I hadn't have done, I could possibly even just gone down 2 of that as well if you wanted to put a size 11 in between. It's really just about making that edge sit flat around the gem duo. So that's why I went down through 3 and not 4. And it helps to sort of join those 2 strands together by adding that little black bead in the middle of them as well. Join them without them actually being joined themselves. The little black bead helps just join those 2 outer strands together. Okay. Nearly finished this side. So I'm nearly running out of thread again too, which is okay because I will join some more thread in. Come up to this outer edge here. That was only 3 beads I picked up then, not 4. me go back and add one more in there. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, I need to sort of reverse that direction that I did on the other side over here. And when you have a look at this piece now, you know, I started with a triangle focal that, you know, is sort of this big. And all of a sudden the piece has now got a bit more substantiveness to it because of the edging that we're actually doing. So your focal piece will always be at the center, but because of the amount of embellishment and things that I'm putting on this, it is becoming, you know, the center of a much larger designed piece. So yeah, it's looking really nice, and the back looks just as nice as the front, which that's often, you know, one of the measures I know when they do things in competitions and shows and things. Does the back look just as good as the front? So I can say that yes, it does in this circumstance. Okay, so I've just reversed my direction again. So pick up 2 black and 2 pink. Oh, sorry, 2 pink, 1 black, 2 pink. Come back through 3 beads again. 1 black, and just go up through 3. So again, just helping to flatten out that little point there. Pick up 2. It's just a matter of, you know, working with whatever size beads you've got to fit around the piece. The 15s make a really lovely little edge on this, and a size 11 bead would have been too big to do this sort of edging with, but the 15s work really nicely. 1, 2, and then back through 3 beads. Nearly finished this, and then I'm going to attach the tassel. Now, of course, the final part of a piece like this would be Paula's least favourite. Who can guess what Paula's least favourite thing to do is? Would be to think about what sort of rope this would have. Would it need a beaded rope? Would a silk ribbon work for something like this? It's fairly beaded and detailed, so adding a beaded rope is possibly a lot. Some sort of, you know, leather cording, or does it need a sparkly crystal rope? I don't know. I need to add more thread. I do know that because I'm nearly out of that piece just there. And I've got another needle threaded just here, so I'm going to use that one. The piece of thread, I don't need very much, so just a little bit to finish that. So rope, oh yes, Linda would tell me I need to make a rope. Yep. Where's my rope slave who loves making ropes? It's not me. Actually, a sort of a strung sort of rope wouldn't be too bad either with something like this. Oh, come on. Just, you know, wait while I... Oh, you meant as my least favourite rope. Yes, that is definitely my least favourite thing to do, Linda. And who knows whether this actually will need that or not. We'll see. I definitely won't get that done today because I really want to move on to that red glass. But let's get this almost finished. So I've only got one little point to add on there. So again, I'll just come up through my 3 beads like that. And pick up 1, 2, black, 1, 2. And one more black one. I'm just going to hold this for a second. I've just got someone at my door. Just hang on a sec. Okay, I'm back. My brother's just shown up. Not my brother who helps me with printing, my other brother. So he's just come here to do something. Okay, I've just got to add that one final little black one in between the three there. Oh, that's 4, Paula. That's right. No, 3, one more. So the last one's the trickiest one to add in, because remember I've got my my first 4 beads that I added, then I added 2, so just finding which is the right one to pull that into. But that's actually created this really beautiful edge now on this piece. Absolutely would have been a spectacular brooch, Anita, I agree. But not if I wanted to put the tassel. I think that's probably a bit much. All right, now I'm just going to finish off that thread. Just go through a couple of beads there as well. And pull that through. And just sort of find somewhere to bury that thread in the beadwork. And look at that beautiful petaled edge really come together really well. And let me just take that off. Did he bring fish to cook for lunch? No, he didn't. He's he's a fisherman too. Both of my brothers are fishermen. I think they're coming to do something on the boat. So I don't know, my son's here as well. They can all just take care of the dog outside and play with the dog and the boat and do whatever they've got to do. So there you go. There's the finished sort of focal now. Got these gorgeous gem duos around the edge, a little beaded fringed edge on it as well. The hot pink matches, the hot pink in the cup chain, pale pink, the matte really looks spectacular. So now we've got these lovely little 4 anchor beads down the bottom here. One of them's decided to twist the wrong way. Oh, wish I had picked that up before now. It's just twisted. I'll straighten that up. Now we're going to add this little anchor in here somehow. So this tassel is really interesting. It's got sort of like a wire. This is quite stiff, this loop here at the top, and it's got some sort of wired edges around here as well. I do think that they need to have some sort of beading. Oh, look, they're movable. Look at that. I can move them around too. That might be interesting to have a gem duo placed in each one of them, wouldn't it? If I sort of bend them down, I could actually do a gem duo, which that sort of ties that in. Yep, that's not a bad idea. And then it's got this, this loop it's quite stiff as well. So it needs to be attached somehow, but I think I might decorate it first. I don't think it could be a tassel and brooch. I think it's too big, to be honest. I think it's beautiful as a pendant, but yeah, I don't think it could be a brooch. But I've got the loop there to attach to, and then I've got these lovely little sections here. And this is it's got sort of a cottony, it's like a cotton sort of feel to it. But I need to now think about how to attach some of those beads. So if I just go through and think about my little gem duos there, again, to repeat the same sort of theme, I'll pick up 4 of the red or the pink gem duos, just pop them either side of this gem duo piece, just as a bit of a holding pattern for the minute, like that. And I know I want that to sort of sit in that little section just there somehow. Something like that, I'm sort of thinking. which is the right way to move it. Now, if I just stitch directly through this tassel to the other side, again, being fabric, they're really good to be able to just stitch around into. Yeah, I can come back and do some more work on that one. Let's add another little gem duo in. So I need a couple more of them. Gem duo again. Pop the 4 little hot pinks either side of those. One, two, three, 4. Now you could do any sort of decoration on any type of tassel. As I said, this was, you know, one of my stash buster tassels that I've got there. I've probably had that for quite a few years as well. You won't always have ones that have got these other, you know, decorative elements on it, but you certainly can do lots of decoration on tassel. You will have seen me do lots of those types of things in the past. And this one I'm just trying to replicate that same gem duo top that I've got on the piece. But yeah, certainly lots of ways to bead around tassels and add different features onto them as well. And I need some more pink. Like that. Now, I'll need to now stitch those down and also add the other elements. So the little tiny bit of black at the top as well. Think about what I'm going to put in this little bit here. So certainly not finished, but definitely on the way. Okay, so again, I'm going to go through those 4 beads again. Now obviously I want it to sit like that in that little pocket. Stay there. Or I might cheat and pop a tiny drop of glue just behind that, just to hold that in place. So again, I'm just popping a little bit of glue on the end of my awl here, just to help hold it whilst I'm jiggling it around. There, that's made that sit. So don't be frightened to put a little bit of glue if that's what you need as well, because that's just helped that sit exactly where I need it to sit. So where's my little black beads? So this time I just need 2, 1 and 2 again. So again, the same sort of treatment that I did at the top. Come up through my 4 beads. Just need to really pull that tight so it sits around the gem duo. That's it. And I think I'm going to need to stitch that down onto that little ring as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to go all the way through there again. And I want to come out of that black bead as my point bead there. And I just want to stitch that down because that's what's going to attach to that little ring there as well. Now it's interesting, I probably need, it's a little bit different to going around this one. I only went around 1/2. So I probably need another couple of beads in that because it's a little bit tight just at the moment. So think my count of, you know, 4, 4 and 4, and then 5 at the top and bottom, I probably need either a bigger bead at the top or bottom. Yeah, I'm going to put a bigger bead, just so that it fits in. Yeah, just a bit tricky trying to work out the exact count of these and make them stick. But that's the concept, is that they're going to match then that top part. So I need to work on that. Again, designing as I go, so you get to see me make design decisions as I'm working on this. So I think I'm going to now do my 2 little pink, but I'm going to use the black, the larger black 11 bead that I used before around the edge of my cab. Rather than the 15, because it's just that little bit bigger to fit into that gap. Repeat that at the top, so 2 pink, 1 11 and 2 pink. Okay, that fits better in there now. What do you think about that? Again, I think I'm going to pop just a tiny bit more glue behind there. And the glue's there just to help hold that in place. I'm going to bring my needle again out of that black bead at the bottom. And maybe if I just pop, you know, sort of 3 or 4 of the pink beads, and I'll wrap that around that little loop, 3, 4, 5 maybe. Again, depending upon what sort of tassel you have, you may not need to go to this level of detail. But for me, it's just a matter of using the elements of that tassel to hold that in place. So you can see there, I've just done that little ring around that wire part there. That's held that nice and firm now. If I go up to the top, I want to come out through that size 11 bead again that's there. And that sort of held that nice and firmly. And again, it's matching this top look. They look a bit like eyes, really, don't they? But okay. Now, that size 11, if I get these ones done, those 11s will match all the way around and tie onto that. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to move on to the red beads, because I need to fiddle with this a little bit, and it's a bit boring for you to watch me fiddle with that, but you get the concept. So I'm going to match these eye beads around. I'm going to do some sort of join in between each of those, and then I'm going to work out how I'm going to attach that to those anchor beads that I put at the bottom. And I think what I'll do is do a little peyote sort of triangle so that it fits nicely on there. That's my vision. But I will finish that and come back to you, but I want to go on to the red beads. So if only I had another clean bead station here to use, that'd be fantastic, but I don't, because they're all got projects on them. Oh, I need to get someone onto that. Okay, let's have a look at these red beads. these are stunning. I've had these for quite some time and I've really been hanging on to them thinking, how am I going to utilise these as a piece? Again, I think they could have this sort of the two flatter ones as the background. So attach they're sort of wired, maybe we might wire them. Then they'll have these ones that are coming out, spilling out of them basically like that. So when I'm attaching the base pieces, they've got lovely holes in them obviously, and they need to then be joined to something. So we could do some stiff stuff to stick them onto. That sort of implies though that there's some bead embroidery, and I don't think that's what I want with this. I think this is more about wiring them together. So I'm going to grab out some wire. What have I got here? I've just got some 20 gauge, that's probably about right, some 20 gauge silver wire. Just going to cut a piece of that to start with. And just sort of run my fingers over it, not to harden it too much, but just to get any kinks out, and put a piece of wire through one, just for now, and then come up and put a piece of wire through a second one. Because I sort of want them to sit something like that, I think. Now, wire is really interesting to work with. Obviously, you can pop, beads onto it to hold things in place as well. But I mean, I do want them to sit still, so I don't want them to move around too much. I have to think about what that's going to be like. Or do I need to? Maybe I do need to stitch them. Just play around with that. Okay, I don't think that's going to work. Right, take that off. So again, we're working out how we're going to utilise these pieces. Do they need something sort of big to be sitting on? Something like I can sort of place them. I think I am going to stitch them onto something. Okay, now let's get some stiff stuff out again. But you could actually make the I don't want a big shape at the back of it. I just need to have something that they adhere to. But I don't want to do like a big shield or anything. I want the glass to be the feature. Amazing what you can find when you pull out different things out of your cupboard. Look at this. I've got this stuff here. Wire knit. Maybe that might be something I could. Let's see what this does. Don't even know why I've got this here. What project I've had this for. So this sort of mesh wire stuff. I think this was a Cynthia Rutledge project maybe years ago. Maybe something like this. If I could sort of bunch that into a piece. Yeah, that might work. Okay. This piece was $15 for this one piece of something. But I'm going to sort of cut it in half. Let's just cut that in half. So this is called wire knit. Wire knit. And I think this might give me a really nice basis to sort of stitch into, but be a bit organic. So I'm just sort of moving that wire knit stuff into a shape. Okay. It's leaving little tiny bits of stuff everywhere at the moment. And then, yeah, I like this. Then I can stitch that glass down into those bits. Yep, that's going to work. Okay, I'm going to grab a bit of some crystal file line this time, because beauty of, these lovely glass pieces with these big holes is obviously I can bead into those holes. And I think they then need different feature beads, and pearls is, you know, what sort of comes to mind, some perhaps coppery pearls. Okay, let's see how this goes. Capture with beads. I think I don't think the glass. I don't like the idea of covering too much of these glass pieces with beads. I think there's such a feature and focal on their own that I want them to be the standout, but just sort of having something to attach it to is a tricky part. If I do leather and stiff stuff, etc., it ends up being a solid sort of finish, whereas this is going to be quite opaque looking. So, you know, I'm just sort of capturing it like that. Let me get out some pearls though to go with it. And because I've chosen the only knit wire that I have, which is a coppery colour, it is going to have to be coppery coloured pearls to go with that. And I've got lots of different sorts of colours in these pearl beads that can go with this. So, you know, some rose golds and coppers I think are going to go really nicely with that. So there's a couple of the 6mm ones. Now I've probably got some 4mm there as well. That's the sort of thing I'm thinking. So let's just needle that through. And again, I'm going to need a stop bead at the back of this. I'll need a size 8 stop bead. Just pop a size 8 stop bead at the back and stitch through so that it's got something to hold on to. I'm just going to stitch through again on that. Just like that. So I've sort of got that held. It's not very firm just yet. I need a bigger tail than what I've just created there. Need something a bit bigger to hang on to. Okay, so I've stitched through a couple of times just to hold that. I'm just going to do one more. And I've pulled the tail out to the side so that it's not in the way, but that just sort of helps secure things. Okay, so there's my nice capture just there. And then, you know, really anchoring this glass with pearls is the secret. I need some rose gold 15s. And just popped on a 15 and then go back through that 6mm like that. Yep, that makes it nice and secure. Come back up again through the anchor bead. You can always add, you know, another sort of size 8 underneath that initial 6mm just to give a bit of height and difference in those beads, in that fringing. Like that. Go back through that size 8 again. And a group of 3 always looks really good with this type of fringed embellishment. Okay, so there's my first sort of flower ad. I'm just going to leave that tail for the minute. I'm going to bring up that other flat bead. That one's sort of going to go over here. And a larger one here. I think that one there could have some fringe coming out of the bottom of it. And then another one sort of there is what I'd be thinking. Is there a pattern for this ring? I don't think I've ever written a pattern up for that, but I probably should, shouldn't I? That's one of my other old designs, that one. And I've got earrings to match as well. Let me just, okay, so this wire, it's actually really nice to work with. I think I probably need some more things in there. So let's go about some crystals. I think some AB crystals is what this possibly needs. Oh, I know the ones I want. I've got some longish ones. Some of these long drop AB crystals will be just beautiful. And then they can fringe out of the bottom of that as well. So again, just pick up a crystal and a size 15 mil. You can see how much crap I've got all over this desk. I've got stuff everywhere. Oh, I just went through the back of that. That wasn't very clever. And you can see it's leaving all little bits of wire, but that will settle. I've sort of cut it now, so it shouldn't. And I could always do some sort of fringe around the edge of this as well. I'm just going to pick up a 15 first, then the long crystal, then another 15. And those long crystals help give another sort of depth and definition to this as well. Different shape in this stamen look. That has to move. Okay, and I'm just going to do one more. Again, an odd sort of number I think works really well with this type of thing. So again, pick up a crystal and a 15. And go through that centre hole. The beauty of some of these glass pieces, they have lovely big holes to work with as well. So it does make it easier to do this type of fringing work with it as well. So there I've got a nice sort of flower centre. I think it needs one more bead though, right in the middle of it. And I'm going to grab out a different sort of bead. And this one is one of the rose gold hematite beads. I'm just going to pop one of them right in the centre. I'm not putting a 15 on this one. I want this to sort of be round rather than stand up like that. And see how that just sort of sits rounded on the piece. Okay, so there's my first sort of flower piece done. I'm going to just, rather than drag my thread over the back of this, because this is not bead embroidery where I'm going to cover the back with some sort of mesh or fabric or whatever. I sort of want that to be neat. So just going to finish this thread off and then add in a new one, rejoin it for my next base. If I was putting a covering over the back of this, then yeah, potentially I wouldn't have to finish off this thread, but I don't want to cover the back of it. I want it to be opaque and clear looking. Okay, I'm also just going to take off that tail thread that's now well secure in there. Okay, so there's the first of the glass added. What do you think? This is a bit different to what I normally do, but I think it's pretty effective. Okay, let's add the second. Now, if I think about my placement of these, remember I want this one to be at the bottom because I want that to fringe. So that's sort of going to sit like that, I think, will be how it'll look. How this then turns into something else, I have no idea yet, but that's okay. So again, go from the front through to the back and pick up an 8 bead as my anchor bead. Hold on to my tail, just stitch that again. I'm not secure yet, but it will be. Again, I'm just going to sort of repeat that, pearl crystals and rounds in the center of this sort of piece. to attach. Interesting fabric to work with this wire. It's secure because it's actually a metal. You know, it's fairly sturdy to work with, but it's pretty pliable as well. So yeah, interesting. So has anyone else used this wire net before? I think, as I said, I think it was a Cynthia Rutledge class we had it for a few years ago. I've got a feeling that's why I brought it. I'll see if I can find what the piece was that we did, but I think it was a cuff. And obviously I brought more thinking I'd make a second one, and I never have. See if I can see where that is. Here, somewhere. Yeah, there. No, that's not it. Somewhere here. Well, maybe it's fallen down the back of the cupboard. I can't see it. It was a red wire cuff thing I think we made several years ago when Cynthia was out here. Anyway, did anybody else do that wire cuff at that time with Cynthia Rutledge? I think that's what it was for. Not there on my shelf, so I need to go and find where that is. As I said, it may have fallen down the back of the cupboard. Okay, let's just keep going with this. So again, that anchor bead at the back is fantastic just to keep, you know, pulling my needle through and securing those beads. Now I've used crystal fireline with this. You could use any, you know, sort of thread or whatever. It doesn't really matter. We don't want to see too much thread. We want it to be sort of well hidden, but it will be once I fill this with other things. And as I said, I'll have to think about what the edge of this might look like, because I don't want it to keep sort of, you know, fraying and losing the bits of the metal. Oh, there's a 15, that needle won't go through. And given that that's a smaller, do I still need 6, or I think maybe just 1 rose gold one, and that final flower in there. The little clinking of the glass and the metal together is lovely to hear. Got a nice sort of clink, 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 clink to it. Okay, again, I can just remove that tail thread now. And think about the next lot of placement. So there's 2. A third one sort of here. And by bunching them together like that, yeah, that's beautiful. You know, you sort of, not so much hide a multitude of sins, but you give lots of areas to then decorate on. So, you know, some fringe coming out of here, out of the longer one. So I've done this sort of 2 designs for these 2 flowers, but these ones I think will be different. So they could be longer pieces of fringing. Again, I'm just going to finish off that thread on the back here and add a new thread in. Exactly, Anita. This could be a beautiful hat pin or brooch pin type thing. It just, yeah, it's got a bit of a different feel to it. Okay, let's add that one in there then. So again, front through to the back, hold on to a bit of a tail here. Just sort of attach that in. Now I'm just going to bunch some of that wire up together at the back there. Pick up a size 8 bead Again, you know, just sort of use that as my anchor bead on the back of the work. Come all the way through to the front of my piece there. Now, again, I'm just sort of holding that tail thread that bunches it and pulls it all together. Oh, good one, Paula. Just broke the thread. Okay, let's start again with another thread. That thread had been dragged through the wire several times, so I'd say that it probably led to its demise and its fraying. But one of the things to be mindful of if you're working with wire, that it could cut your thread as well. Thread my needle, there we go. We'll try that again. So again, I'm just going to attach that sort of longish piece here, or whichever side it was on. I can't really remember now. It doesn't really matter. Yeah, that can go in there. So go from the front through to the back through my piece. If I just hold my thumb there on that tail thread so that it doesn't move around too much, pick up a size 8 bead, go all the way through that again, create that nice anchor. Now I'm just going to pop what am I going to do here? Because I want to do a different sort of fringe out of this, I want some, might do a silver bead, because I want to sort of tie into some of those silver drops that are off the bottom of one of those flowers have that silver bead on it. Not an 8, I need an 11. There it is there. So I've got some nice check silver here. Just going to do a little bit of a longish sort of fringe, so, you know, 5 or 6 different beads as a sort of a drop. I picked up more than 5 or 6, but we'll just see what that looks like. You know, that sort of, yeah, that's right. And then I need, because I want to tie back those crystals again. So where's my 4mm AB crystals? Grab out a couple of those. Pop that on the end here with a size 15 on the end. And go back through the crystal and all those 11s. All the way through to my size 8 anchor bead, wherever that is, back there. Let's just pull that all the way through. Yep. Okay, there's my anchor bead. So again, I want to create another little piece of fringe. Anita, you're probably right. I probably could have used a thicker fire line. That would have made me think about it, which of course I didn't do. But yeah, thicker fire line would sort of solve that, I would say too. But I've just, yeah, using the 6 that I've got here. So again, I'm just popping that different sort of fringe on here. So it's, you know, some silver beads, the 4mm bicone, and then a size 15. So just sort of creating that stamen-like flowers that sit there. I think this is definitely looking like a brooch, is my sense of this. Trying to get through that hole there. I think what I've done is yep, there it is. Just angling to make sure that it's going through the hole. It's got a lovely tinkle to it. Tinkle, tinkle. Remember, I've got that anchor bead at the back there just to help me go through something. Then I'm going to come all the way through again. And create another little stamen. Full mil, size 15. Just a matter of finding where to get that needle all the way through. There it is. Fossick around in there. Okay, there's a second sort of reiteration. Now, if I come over to this side, this one's got, whether it was broken or I don't know, but it's sort of got a bit of an angle. Looks like I've broken it at some point, but it's going to work well for me because I can just sort of angle that one in to sit like that. Okay, let's take off that tail thread. And I'm just going to finish that off at the back as well. Like that. Okay, let's think about where the placement of this next one is, sort of popping that in there. Again, you can just sort of, you know, fold and work that wire mesh. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. Okay, so again, I'm going to go front through to the back. Leave a, ugh, it just come right off. Leave a tail like that. Managed to catch that all the way around there. Okay. Need multiple hands. And grab another stop bead. You know, just sort of stitch that in the back there. Then come all the way back through my piece. Getting a little bit harder to work with because it's becoming bigger, but the effect is pretty spectacular, I think, of this glass together. Silver. So again, I'll do a very similar sort of finish. The silver beads to create that stamen. Then I think the final one, the sort of the round with the drops, is even more lush. Oh, look, I just broke that thread again. So there you go. There's another trick with working with the wire. It does break the thread. Okay. You can see what I'm going to do with this though. That one's going to go to there and that one's going to go to there. That's how I'm going to drop those off. All right. It is 1:30, so I am going to flip over to my base. I'm going to go away and finish off this with, I think I'll go to a thicker fire line because that's really going to annoy me, the breaking of fire line. So thicker fire line for starters. And then I think I will do some sort of edge for this. So I can sort of see this piece, you know, literally sitting something like this as a brooch. So see how that could sort of sit really nicely, you know, with that sort of drop there and the second, you know, flower sitting in there like that. That's how I sort of see that one finished off. So it matches my nails too, but I am going to do a bit more work on making that a bit more secure without the wire. Coiled wire in the center potentially as well, that could work, but that's how I see it finished. I do want to do some sort of edge just around those open wire edges as well, but I think the way that's come together as a whole piece is pretty beautiful actually. Pretty happy with that. So that I'm going to go away and finish. Then I'm going to have a look at this one and finish that tassel off for you as well. So that won't take me too long. I'll get onto that now. But that's what I'm going to work on. So thank you everyone for coming along to my focus on focals today. It was a really good session for me. I've still got a stash of focals out there that I need to pull out and work with. So I will do that in the next little while, and it's always nice to have lots of fun things to work on, and I really appreciate all your feedback and comments, and by all means go and check this out on YouTube when I'll put the finished designs up there later as well. Thanks everyone for coming along today. Have a great day. Bye for now. Hey, it's Paula. I thought I'd just check back and show you the finished products from today's session, Focus on Focals. It was a great session where I went through a range of different beading projects that I've used significant focal beads in, and then I put out a whole selection, and the top two actually were what I worked on. So I've finished those projects this afternoon. So I'm just going to go through and show you what they actually were and what I finished. So the first one was actually the fan shape. Sorry, I'll just pull my camera up here. Was the actual fan shape piece. So you can see here, I actually finished off the beaded tassel there. So I did a couple of rows there of the gem duo beads in this slipperit colour. And this particular tassel had little wires in it. So it sort of created this crown effect with that as well. I then, as I suspected, I did a little triangular section at the bottom of the fan shape there, and then just joined the tassel on the top there. So in terms of attachment, what I did at the back was I created two little loops just at the sides here, and then I just beaded my cord through there and then knotted that to finish it off. So it's just a straight over the head finish piece with that one. So that's the fan piece that's come up really, really nicely. Super happy with that, with the sort of hot pink cup chain, little touches of hot pink, and then the pale and matte black, pale pink and matte black colours in there as well. So that was the fan piece. The other one that I finished was the actual glass cluster. So you can see here, I actually bead embroidered the entire edge of that wire net here. So that just gave it a bit more structure and finish. And then on the back of it, I've actually made it into a brooch by attaching a brooch back. And I sort of just secured that center part where I had all of those stop beads by just creating a very organic piece of peyote. So everywhere I had a stop bead, I just beaded through to that and then just peyote stitched it. I also added in a couple of little clusters of beads in the wire there as well. But that one's turned out to be a beautiful organic looking brooch with the wire knit and the glass beads with all their little dangles, etc. on them. So I'm super happy with how that one has come together as well. So that was my two projects from today, Focus on Focals. I hope you enjoyed watching those, and look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.